My name is Jolie Mercer, I'm 33 years old. And the morning my parents showed up crying at my front door, I honestly thought someone had died. My mother, Elaine, was shaking so badly she could barely hold her purse, while my father, Grant, stood behind her with the kind of expression that told me this wasn't a normal family visit. "Jolie, please," Mom whispered. "Your brother needs your house." I actually laughed because I thought she had to be kidding. "My house?" I asked. Dad stepped forward and said, "Tyler starts college next year. He needs somewhere to live and you have 3 bedrooms. Don't be selfish." Seriously? After years of barely asking how I was doing, they had suddenly driven across Raleigh to tell me what to do with the home I had worked my butt off to buy. I folded my arms. So where exactly am I supposed to live? Mom looked away. Dad didn't answer. That silence made my stomach tighten. Then he reached inside his jacket and placed a thick manila envelope on my kitchen counter. "Just sign this," he said. I didn't touch it. "What is it?" "Nothing complicated," Mom said quickly. "It's just temporary." I looked at her. Temporary for how long? Neither of them answered. My father finally muttered, "Until Tyler finishes college." 4 years. Maybe more. I felt my jaw tighten, but then I noticed something strange. Mom kept staring at the envelope like she was afraid I might open it. "You said Tyler needs my house," I said slowly. "Why does he need it so badly?" My mother's eyes filled with tears again. "Because if you don't help him, Jolie, something terrible could happen." That was the moment I stopped thinking about Tyler's college. They weren't here because my brother needed a place to stay. They were here because something had already gone wrong, and somehow my house was part of it. My mother's words followed me into the kitchen, and for the first time, I noticed how carefully both of them were avoiding my eyes. I had grown up knowing Tyler was the favorite, but that morning made every old memory come rushing back. When I was 19, my parents had asked me to give up the bedroom I shared with my sister so Tyler could have his own space before high school. When I complained, Dad told me, "You're the responsible one, Jolie. You'll understand someday." I understood plenty. Tyler always got the new phone, the better car, the expensive summer programs, while I worked nights at a diner and paid my own tuition. The final straw came when I was 24. My parents borrowed $12,000 from my savings to help Tyler get through a rough semester, and promised to repay me within months. They never did. I eventually stopped asking because I realized they had never considered my sacrifices as important as his comfort. That was why buying my own house outside Raleigh had meant so much to me. Every payment was proof that I could build something without them. So when Mom suddenly started crying about Tyler's future, I didn't feel guilty. I felt suspicious. "Why now?" I asked. Dad rubbed his forehead. "Because Tyler's situation is complicated." "How complicated?" He glanced at Mom again. "Just sign the papers, Jolie." That answer made my pulse jump. I picked up the envelope and felt how thick it was. There were far more papers inside than a simple housing agreement should have required. "What exactly did you two prepare?" I asked. Mom reached for the envelope, but I pulled it away. "Don't," she whispered. "You're making this harder than it has to be." I looked at her trembling hand. My mother had never been afraid of me before. That scared me more than anything she had said. I opened the flap, but before I could pull out the papers, Dad suddenly said, "If you read those, you're going to understand why we came here." I froze. 4 years they had made me feel like Tyler's needs mattered more than mine. Now they were terrified I might discover exactly how far they had gone to protect him. I opened the envelope slowly, expecting a simple housing agreement, but the first page made my heart stop. It wasn't a lease. It was a power of attorney with my name printed at the top and Tyler's name listed as the beneficiary. I looked at my father. "What is this?" He immediately reached for the papers, but I pulled them closer. "Jolie, just listen," Mom said. "Your brother needs stability." I flipped to the second page and saw language about financial obligations connected to my property. My stomach tightened. Why does this mention my house being used as security? Dad's face changed. "Because we're trying to protect Tyler." "From what?" I asked. Nobody answered. That silence was louder than anything they could have said. I told them to leave, then locked the door behind them and called Tyler. He didn't answer the first time. On the second call, he finally picked up. "Jolie, please don't be mad at me." I sat down at my kitchen table. Why would I be mad at you? He hesitated. Mom and Dad said you already agreed to help. My heart sank. Help with what? Tyler lowered his voice. Dad's business. Apparently, my father's construction company had been struggling for months, and several unpaid debts had started piling up. Tyler said Dad had told him everything would be fixed once I signed the papers. But then Tyler said something that made my blood run cold. He said the house was already being used as collateral. That's impossible, I whispered. I never signed anything. Tyler went quiet. Jolie, there's something else. He told me Dad had shown him a document with my signature on it weeks earlier. I immediately opened my laptop and searched the Wake County property records. At first, everything looked normal. My name was still listed as the owner. Then I noticed a filing dated 6 weeks earlier. A lien had been placed against my house. My hand started shaking. I opened the scanned document, and there it was at the bottom, my name, my signature, my supposed authorization. It looked frighteningly real, but I knew I had never signed it. Then I noticed the notary stamp. The name underneath it was Denise Harper. I recognized her instantly. She was my mother's longtime friend, the woman who had been at our family Thanksgiving only 3 months earlier. Suddenly, the envelope on my counter didn't feel like a request anymore. It felt like evidence. And I had one terrifying question left. Who had forged my signature, and how far had my parents already gone? 2 days later, I sat across from Rebecca Sloan, a real estate attorney in downtown Raleigh, with the envelope spread across her desk. She studied the power of attorney, the lien, and the signature without saying much. Finally, she looked at me and said, Jolie, this wasn't an accident. My stomach dropped. She requested the original filing records and discovered that the document had been notarized at Denise Harper's office on a Tuesday morning. There was just one problem. I had been in Charlotte that entire day for a work conference. My hotel receipt, credit card charges, and even a photo from my company dinner placed me nearly 3 hours away. Rebecca ordered a forensic handwriting comparison, and while we waited, she asked why my parents would risk everything for Tyler. I told her the truth. Tyler had always been the child they protected, even when protecting him meant sacrificing me. Then Rebecca found something even worse. The loan agreement didn't simply use my house as collateral. It stated that if my father defaulted, the property could be transferred to satisfy the debt. Suddenly, their desperate request made sense. They didn't need Tyler to live in my house. They needed me to sign enough paperwork to make their theft look voluntary. I felt sick, but I wasn't going to let them win. Rebecca filed an emergency petition to freeze the lien, and 3 days later, my parents were forced into a family meeting they had originally planned to use against me. My mother arrived crying. My father arrived angry. Tyler sat between them, looking completely lost. Then Rebecca placed 5 documents on the table. First, the fraudulent power of attorney. Second, my travel records proving I couldn't have signed it. Third, the notary record connecting Denise to my mother. Fourth, the forensic report showing my signature had been copied. And fifth, a text message from Mom to Dad that Tyler had secretly saved. Once Jolie signs, the house covers everything. The room went silent. Tyler stared at our parents. You told me she was giving me the house, he whispered. Dad had no answer. Mom finally broke down and admitted the truth. The business was drowning, the debt was enormous, and they had planned to use my house to save themselves while making Tyler believe it was his future. The court later removed the fraudulent lien, referred the forged documents for investigation, and confirmed that my house remained completely mine. Tyler apologized, and I helped him find a legitimate way to pay for college. As for my parents, I changed my locks and stopped letting their guilt control my life. They had arrived at my door demanding my future for Tyler. In the end, they lost the house they never owned, the lie they thought they could protect, and the control they had held over me for years. And for the first time, when I closed my front door, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free.